All right, this is lesson number 23, combining like terms. This is a really important skill that we pick up on. And so I'm going to spend some time just going through this with you. The first thing we need to do is just basically understand what a coefficient is. And then we'll get to the problems that are down here. So I've got, it looks like, how many do I have here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 individual little terms or little pieces to an algebraic expression. And the first thing is we need to figure out what is the coefficient. The coefficient simply is this. It's the number that sits out in front of the variable. So here's my variable, it's x. The number that sits in front of that is the coefficient. So the coefficient on negative 5x is negative 5. Let's run through the rest of these. Coefficient is the number that sits in front of the variable. So the number that sits in front of the x is 3. 2/5 y. The number that sits in front of the y is the coefficient. It's the 2/5. It's the whole thing, not just the 2, not just the 5, but the whole thing. Here's the next one. Negative 4y. It's the number that sits in front, so it's going to be the negative and the 4. Here's the next one. Negative 1x. It's the number that sits in front of the x, so that'd be negative 1. These two are a little challenging. If you're like, hey, I don't see a number there, so it must not have a coefficient. Here's the idea. Mathematicians are a little lazy. And so if they have a 1, like this one here, sitting out in front, they don't necessarily write that 1. They just assume that you know it's there. Assuming, I know, can kind of be dangerous, but in this case, that's the way it is. So there's really a 1 right there. So if you want to slightly put that in there, there it is. So the answer on that one is negative 1. Same thing on this. If you don't see a number in front, we can assume that it's 1. Boom. Okay, let's go through these few examples. Here's the first one. We're going to combine like terms. So now that we know what coefficients are, we need to break this up into terms. Terms are always separated by plus signs and minus signs. So this is our first term, this is our second term, and there's our third term. We have 3 terms. The rule goes like this. We may combine any terms that have the same variable, and the variable has to have the same exponent. So for example, this is 2x and this is 3x. Since both of them have an x, and the exponent on that x is a 1, then I can put those two together. And here's how I do it. I simply add the coefficients together. So 2 plus 3 is 5, and you carry down the x. It's not x squared, it's just plain x. So that's those 2 terms. The 5 is next. 5 doesn't have anybody to combine with, so you carry him down. Usually we try to write the x term first. We call that descending order. Write the x terms first, and then the term that doesn't have the x last. Here's another one. All right, the first task is to figure out how many terms we have. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, and there's 5. There are the 5 terms. And then we're going to go descending order, which means we start with the letter A first. So descending order means biggest exponents to smallest exponents. And then we also want to go alphabetical as well. So we're going to start with, we have 2 terms that have A. The 2A and the negative 10A. And so we're going to put those first. I'm going to combine them. 2 minus 10 is negative 8. And carry over the A. Let's go to the next letter. That would be B. So 6b. There's no other b's up here. So plus 6b. That one's done. And then the last bit is to combine terms that don't have any letters on them. So that would be negative 5 and negative 10 gives me negative 15. And there it is. Okay, the next one looks like this. First step is to circle terms. Remember, terms are always separated by plus signs and minus signs. So every time you see a plus sign and a minus sign, that's the beginning and the end of a term, and there they are. Okay, in this case, we have terms that have an x squared and an x. And I need to go descending order. Descending order means I'm going to start with the highest exponent. So I'm going to start with the 2's. So I'm going to combine the x squares. So 3x squared, 4x squared gives you 7x squared. The next one is the next term that has an x. Since these two do not have an x, I don't have to worry about them yet. I'll do this one next. So negative 5x. And then put these two together. There it is. Last question. Circle like terms. Start with the highest exponent, which is this guy. There's no other x squareds, so we just put him down. Then go to the x's. Remember, this is a negative 1 right here. So 3 minus 1 is 2. And then a 5. There's lesson 23. Good luck on your homework.